I might be a bit biased on this one, because cosmic horror is my absolute favorite movie genre, but Color Out of Space is a banger flick. They even managed to write a role for Nicolas Cage in which he truly excels. It is a lovingly crafted Lovecraft adaptation, and it features some of the most gruesome practical effects in the cosmic horror genre. The family's descent into madness is just executed to perfection, so sit back and relax for the full movie breakdown and ending explained. In the west of Arkham, there are woods that have never felt the cut of an axe. And when Ward traveled to those woods to survey for the new reservoir, the townspeople warned him the forest he is about to enter holds an evil. Deep in these woods, near a river, the young Lavinia Gardner is performing a witch's ritual. She is attempting to cure her mother Teresa's cancer with this Wiccan magic. She gets interrupted by Ward, but he is trespassing on private property. He clearly should have known, because if part of a forest randomly is private property without any signs or fence around it, then you should clearly feel this in your bones or something. But Ward introduces himself. He is doing a survey of the valley in the name of the hydroelectric company he works for. He wins her over by asking some questions about her ritual, but he fumbles the type of magic she's using. Anyways, he still manages to get some directions out of Lavinia. Lavinia then takes her horse back home to a house in the middle of the forest. Her father, Nathan, scolds her for wandering the woods alone, and her mom badges her about not knowing where her brother is. She goes to the barn and catches her brother, Benny, smoking the devil's lettuce. Then she tells Benny about meeting Ward and calls him cute. Later, Lavinia joins her little brother Jack, who is playing at the well. She gathers them all inside for yet another one of Dad's failed attempts of cooking a meal that is digestible. Now Teresa is self-employed, and even though she is terminally ill, she has to keep up her client contacts. She has like this investment business where she gambles with other people's money for her own gain. During dinner, they talk about Dad's obsession with alpaca milk, which his family thinks is super gross, but he believes it will be the future. After some more generic family conversations at the dinner table, Mom and Dad have some parenting reflection time outside. They compare themselves with their own parents. Teresa says she nags like her own mom, and Nathan mentions that when he was younger, he would have never in a million years want to live at his dad's farm in the middle of nowhere. But look where they are now. Nathan tries to put the moves on his wife, but she has some serious insecurities about her body after they had to remove her breasts due to breast cancer. At night, after bedtime, they finally get it on. Nathan waited like 6 weeks, and his nuts are swelling up. Benny was still playing a video game and his computer starts to glitch, and Jack wakes up because his room is shaking. Jack runs into their dog Sam in the hallway because he also feels that something is wrong. There is a pinkish-violet purpley light shining bright into the house. And then there is a huge blast. The family rushes outside to see what is going on. They find a glowing meteorite that crashed into their front garden. But Teresa is very worried about Jack. He is unresponsive, like he is in a state of shock. Nathan is too busy bitching about the smell that the meteorite emits when Jack finally comes to. He has a headache, and while Mommy wants to take him to the hospital, Nathan tells him to walk it off. The next morning, the police arrives on the scene. Nathan describes the smell as burning dog. The mayor asks him what the hell happened, and Nathan tells her the whole story. Like he was banging his wife again finally when this meteorite crashed, and there was like a color that we can clearly describe as probably pink, but the movie really wants it to be an indescribable color. So it's the color out of space. Lavinia walks outside to put her nose into things when Ward shows up. She introduces him to her dad because he might have an idea of what it might be that crashed into the Gardner's garden. It seems like Nathan is the only one that can smell this horrid perfume the meteorite releases. It turns him into a jerk, and as soon as he notices that Lavinia digs Mr. Ward, he sends her inside to check on her mother. Inside, Mommy calls her out for liking the water research scientist. Ward asks Nathan if there is anybody else living on their property that he might be able to talk to. Nathan tells him that a guy named Ezra is squatting on their land. Benny can show him the way, but the guy is very paranoid. So there is slim to no chance the guy will actually be willing to talk to him. Benny and Ward approach Ezra's property, and Ward notices the cameras. Ezra opens the door, and he is actually quite welcoming. He knows a lot about Ward. Like that, he is a hydrologist and came to talk about the space rock. He tells Ward that his little birdies told him all about his visitor. Ezra apologizes to Ward for the color on his water, which worries Ward, but he can't seem to put his finger on what could be wrong with it. He offers to run some tests on their water just to make sure it's safe. A thunderstorm rumbles in the sky, and back at the house, Lavinia is watching the show from the outside. The lightning keeps striking into the meteorite. It's like it's pulling the electricity towards it. Meanwhile, Ward ran back to his tent to test the water, and he found that the water emits the same color that was shining on the night of the crash. He receives a phone call, but there is no connection, and hears strange sounds coming from the bushes. His car suddenly turns on and off again, and then his radio blasts a tune. The next morning, Nathan and Teresa go to check on the meteorite, but it's gone. There are new flowers showing up around their well, but they get distracted because the news vans are showing up to blow this spectacle out of proportions. But that night, when they are watching the news, it is clear that Nathan made a complete and utter ass out of himself during his interview. Teresa is in the kitchen, and she is in a state of trance. As she is cutting a carrot, she casually cuts 2 of her own fingers off without even noticing. Nathan takes his wife to the hospital, while Benny has to take over as the man of the house. They are gone during the night, so the next day Benny starts the routine for the alpacas. When Jack wakes up, he hears a ringing sound coming from outside. There's something wrong with their father's sheep-llama crossbreeds, and Lavinia gets an uncomfortable feeling when she spots Jack sitting in the garden. He is whistling and says the man in the well is talking to him. Suddenly, just as Lavinia is walking away, she also hears the ringing whistle coming from the well. She runs inside, and the phone rings. It's her father, but there is no connection. Meanwhile, outside, Jack is drawing an image of the creature in the well when it calls him towards it. At the bottom of the well is the meteorite, but now it looks more like an egg that splits open and releases a pink-looking praying mantis. It looks at Jack while tentacles come out of its mouth, and then it flies off. Inside, the TV is glitching, and Lavinia is doing the dishes. She washes the kitchen knife her mother used to cut off her own fingers. And while she does this, there is a pink flash, and 5 hours have passed. Blood is running out of the sink, and the phone rings again, but there is only static. She runs to the toilet to blow out some chunks. Somebody knocks at the door. It's Ward. He is coming to tell them about some strange contamination in the water. He warns them to definitely not drink the water. He sees Jack standing there, looking at the well, and asks him what he is doing. And Jack tells Ward he is playing with his friends. This kid is hella creepy, so Ward gets away from him, while Jack laughs at something the monster in the well tells him. Ward makes his way back to Ezra's little shindig. He doesn't answer his calls. The doors are open, and Ezra is on all fours. His cat is missing, and he is amplifying the sounds below the ground. He is recording the whistling, ringing sound. He calls them the aliens under the floor. Ward thinks it's some geothermal activity, but Ezra is clearly smoking that good green because he is definitely onto something. That evening, Nathan and Teresa are on their way back home. The surgery was successful, but there is something on the road that scares them to a halt. The mom is so spooked that she calls home to check in on the kids, but nobody answers. Jack is still outside, looking at the well, and Sam joins him. The pink light is shining brightly and starts to move. The dog runs towards it, and we hear the sounds of Sam suffering. Lavinia is upstairs in her bed, but gets activated by the whistle once more. She walks into Benny's room because she hears a strange sound. Benny is home, and he tells Lavinia there is something really weird going on. He also lost track of time and has no memory of this day. The phone rings, and it's just static again. They finally realize they have no idea where Jack is. Mommy and Daddy get home, and they find Jack outside in the cold alone. They go off against Benny and Lavinia about not taking care of their little brother. And then he spots his prized alpacas still standing outside. That pisses him off even more. Nathan goes to put his alpacas in the barn while he searches for Sam. Once he is done with his alpacas, Benny and Lavinia try to talk some sense into the guy. But Nathan's mood is weird. He is angrier than he would normally be. Nathan goes inside to wash off the day, but in the shower he found some weird blob-looking thing. Nathan can't get over this smell. He describes it as a cancer smell, a smell of death, making his wife feel horrible in the process. While Jack keeps screaming that Sam is with Grandpa, who is dead throughout their bickering, and Teresa just has to get to work or they will not be able to eat anymore. The next day, Nathan's newly sprung pink garden is overflowing with a large amount of fruits and vegetables. He goes into the kitchen to wash his huge, juicy, succulent fruits. Teresa also enters the kitchen and complains about the Wi-Fi connection. She can't work like this. Nathan tries his new fruits and vegetables, but they taste absolutely horrendous. And while Teresa takes off to lay down and calm her temper, Nathan pours himself a drink and sits down to watch TV. His skin is very dry, almost like a reptile's skin, and the TV keeps distorting into this pink color. That night, Jack wakes up and gets out of bed. Lavinia is also awake, and she is packing her bag. Jack enters the living room, and his dad is sleeping in his chair. It's almost like the TV is hypnotizing him. Benny is waiting outside while watching their now fully overgrown pink garden, and Jack joins him, while Lavinia is performing a ritual out of her Necronomicon to ask for protection against the evil forces at play. Teresa wakes up when she notices that Jack is gone, and when she gets outside, she sees Jack and Benny walking towards the barn. They open the barn door and hear a sound of suffering. The alpacas fused into an enormous, monstrous pink blob and launch a sort of beam. Benny manages to dodge it, but it hits Jack and Teresa. Nathan is outside and quickly takes the abomination that is his wife and son inside while screaming at Benny to call an ambulance, but there is no connection. Lavinia enters the living room. She carved all kinds of symbols into her own skin, and that's when she sees what happened to her mother and brother. They fused into one ugly-ass bag of skin. Nathan tries the car, but nothing seems to work anymore, and their entire property is now overgrown by pink flowers, plants, and trees. Benny suggests to Lavinia that all of this started after the meteorite hit. It doesn't just change matter, it changes their entire concept of time. They have no idea how long ago their dad left to check on the car. Their mom starts to gargle uncontrollably when Nathan enters and tells the kids about the car not working anymore. The guys really try to have a normal conversation, but Jack and Teresa keep moaning, which is kind of annoying. The sunlight burns the skin blob, so they carry the abomination up the stairs to the attic. Nathan tells the kids to stay put while he looks at his deformed wife in disgust. He goes downstairs to get his gun and goes into the barn. He shoots his blob of molten together, prized alpacas until he gets every last head, like he is killing a hydra. Upstairs, Benny got some water for their mom as she awkwardly licks it out of a bowl. Nathan returns and tells the kids to go downstairs. Lavinia asks her dad what he is going to do, and he tells them he will handle it. Benny takes charge and pulls his sister out of the room with him. Nathan puts the gun to his wife's head, but kisses the sticky abomination instead. At the mayor's office, Ward has an appointment, and after he goes outside and the police officers ask him to come check something out, they pull off a blanket and it's a heap of skin-deformed animals. They ask him if he knows what is going on, but Ward has no clue either. Lavinia and Benny go outside, and Lavinia tries to get her horse to come with her, but it has the purple glow in its eyes, and she can't seem to calm it down. The horse rips himself out of her grasp and runs off into the night. Benny hears the whistle and thinks it's Sam. He runs towards the well and shines a light inside. He is going crazy and climbs down into the well, but the meteorite starts to form pink tentacles and pulls Benny to the bottom. Nathan sneaks up on Lavinia and takes her inside the house. He brings her upstairs to the attic and throws her in with her mother and Jack. He completely lost it. Ward and the officer are speeding towards the Gardner residence. Nathan is now alone downstairs. He pours himself another drink and watches TV. He is rambling. Lavinia is screaming for help upstairs. When she finally notices what happened to her mother and Jack, they turned into some weird two-headed spider-like monster that attacks Lavinia. The officer and Ward arrive, and Nathan opens the door. He invites them inside. He is not making sense. He tells them that his entire family is sitting in the living room while there is nobody there. They hear a screech coming from the attic. They ram through the door and find the monster attacking Lavinia. Nathan enters the room with his shotgun and puts the monster down. Nathan tells the officer and Ward that they are not his family. As he leaves the attic, Ward picks up Lavinia and carries her outside. But as they arrive, the pink tentacles are released from the well. Nathan points his shotgun at the well, but the officer misunderstands and shoots Nathan. The tentacles retract back into the well. Lavinia runs towards her father, crying, but he is smiling and calling his blood beautiful. As Lavinia begs her father not to leave her, he dies in her arms. The officer mentions getting out of there, but Lavinia tells Ward and the cop that that thing will never let them leave. They hear the ringing and the boys still believe there is a way out. Lavinia tells Ward that she lives here now. There is no way out for her. So Ward takes off and tells her he'll be back as they go out to check on Ezra. They enter his shack. Ezra is dead. He became like a reptile. He left a voice recording stating that he knew it was coming, and as it became too strong, it is too late to stop it now. He says it is just a color as his head starts to concave and the light shines out of it. The cop and Ward run back towards the house, but a monster picks the officer off the ground and pulls him into the trees, where it kills him. Ward runs back to Lavinia, who is standing at the well. She is crying, and the color is also inside of her. When Ward looks into the color, he sees a place somewhere far away in the stars, but it also feels very close and demonic. The color comes out of the well like a sort of tornado and goes all the way up into the clouds. It consumes Lavinia, and Ward starts to distort, like there are multiple versions of him at the same time. He goes back inside, where he finds Nathan back in front of the TV. Then he sees the entire family sitting on the couch, and Nathan attacks Ward. He tries to pull Ward outside, but he manages to fight him off and locks himself into the wine cellar. And finally, there is a big pink explosion. Everything is covered in white ashes as Ward re-emerges from the cellar. All the life and all the color was subtracted from this place in the forest. Sometime later, the hydro company that Ward works for built a dam over the place where the Gardner's house used to stand, and he doesn't know a lot of what happened to them on that day. But the one thing he does know is that he will never drink that water. Now, the aftermath of the meteorite landing and the subsequent birth of this color all seem to point towards some kind of alien testing. The color is shown to only affect a very small, remote region, almost as if this is just the first stage in some preliminary sample. This could have been done to gain intel, judge the quality of the Earth, and then take an even larger sample next time. It also seems likely that the color will need to conduct more tests, and even if the danger is temporarily over, the extraterrestrial material is still embedded in the land, and there are trace elements elements of it that are visible in the sky. It feels like the supernatural threat from color out of space is now just biding its time and waiting for the right moment to strike back. But here's the biggie. The Necronomicon is a fictional book created by Lovecraft that is featured heavily in some of his stories, notably in the Dunwich Horror. Lavinia is named after Lavinia Whatley, a character in the Dunwich Horror who uses the Necronomicon to summon a monstrous, extra-dimensional being. The director, Richard Stanley, has stated that he plans to make a trilogy of Lovecraft films, with the second installment being an adaptation of the Dunwich Horror. So hopefully we can enjoy more amazing Lovecraftian stories in the future. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Hope to see you next time.